Hi there, my name's Susan. This is Pilates Hub and this is 30 minutes of body rolling. We're going to start off with a fairly firm small size ball and we're going to sit on it. So you're going to put it right in the center of your pelvic floor, joined by a gaggle of seagulls you can probably hear in the distance. Okay, so we are placing the ball right in the middle of your pelvis, so it feels like it is between the pubic bone at the front, the tailbone at the back, and the sit bones on either side. And we're going to sit here quietly and breathe for a few moments. So inhale through your nose, and then exhale either through your mouth or your nose. My preference is through my nose also, but if you want to breathe out through your mouth, that is fine. So you want it to feel like your pelvis knows that you're breathing. So as you take an inhale, and you can sense the diaphragm in the center of your torso dropping a little bit on that inhale. Your pelvic floor should also feel like it softens and maybe ever so slightly presses out a little bit on the inhale. It's not forceful. It's more like a pelvic sigh or a softening rather than a shoving or a forcing. So we've got two body parts we're aiming to move slightly, the diaphragm and the pelvic floor. And as you inhale, they both ever so slightly drop. And as you exhale, they both ever so slightly rise. And just carry on with that breath pattern a little bit longer. And then when you feel ready, we've got an ever so slight pelvic rock. So I'm tucking my tailbone under a little bit, and then I'm sending it back out behind me the other way. The ball moves forwards a little bit as I tuck my tailbone under, and backwards a little bit as I rock the other way. I'll do a few more of those, just breathing naturally. Just noticing how your legs feel about this. If you want to change the cross of your legs, feel free to go ahead and do so. So you would shift one out and then bring them back in. And then from there, we're going to tip our hips over to one side. So let's go to what will be your right. I'm going to drop it down on one side. And it will change the point at which the ball presses onto your pelvis. Coming back up to the center. And then going to the other side. And then back up. Let's do that a few more times, tipping over. And coming back up. And tipping over. And coming back up. Let's do one more each side. Trying to let the tip create a little bit of stretch in the soft tissue. And back up. And then over to the side for the last one. And then back up. Okay, so from here, we're now going to roll over to your right sit bone. So the legs will have to move to help you stay balanced and upright. And then try to find the point off the sit bone so that it feels like you're perched right up on top of it, on top of the ball. And then just sit there for a moment. And then from here, we're going to circle round. Small circle around your sit bone. And then changing and circling the other way. And then we're going to come back onto the sit bone and bring both our knees closer together and drop to the side. So if you're on your right sit bone, both your knees are knocked to the right hand side. And then you're going to lower and lift the bottom leg. I'm still working into that relaxed breath pattern that allows the diaphragm and the pelvic floor to move as you breathe. So as I breathe in, my diaphragm drops down in the direction of my intestines, and my pelvic floor softens a little bit from the pressure that's created from the breath movement. So that's both the diaphragm and the pelvic floor doing a little bit of a drop. And then drawing back up as you exhale. Okay, let's move around the pelvis. So I'm coming off the sit bone and moving to another location. It's part of that circle that we did to begin with. We're moving to another section of the circle and then holding it still and letting the low leg lift and lower. And then moving to the next bit. Taking a moment to find your balance before you start the leg movement. And then working around. So I'm kind of nearly halfway. And you don't have to prop your body up in exactly the same fashion as myself. If you need to come down onto a forearm, that's fine. If you need a cushion under your arm, that's also fine. So just finding something that works for you. Moving again. I'm kind of now in the center of the back of my pelvis, ever so slightly off to my right hand side. And then moving again. And then one last time. And then back onto your sit bone. So we started off on the right side of the pelvis, and we're back on to this right sit bone, and I've got my right leg straightened out. So I'm now going to roll off my sit bone onto the tops of my hamstrings. And something's going to have to happen with this far away leg so I don't fall over. So I'm going to bring it around in what is like a hurdle stretch. So it's internally rotated behind me. If that doesn't work for you, it can be up. It could even be straight out in front of you. Whatever you need to do in order to feel comfortable enough to balance. And lean your body weight down onto your hamstrings. And then we're going to just rock from side to side. So this is the hips moving left and right. And then I'm going to rock and roll my thigh bone in the socket. So it's now pivoting off the heel. And then I'm going to roll myself so that the ball is now on the back of my thigh in the middle section. And then I'm going to lean on it. And then I'm rocking from side to side. Trying to keep the weight pressing down so it feels like you're pushing your hamstrings ever so slightly left, ever so slightly right. And then from there, I'm going to rock and roll the leg in the socket. And then carry on this journey down towards just above the back of the knee joint. So when you get to here, if you really need to put your seat down on the floor, you can. If you find that it reduces the amount of leaning you can do, prop yourself back up again. But I'm going to put both my forearms on my thigh bones and try to lean down and press. And then I'm going to point and flex my foot. And then I'm going to have to prop my bottom up a little bit for my side-to-side movement. And then I'm going to rock and roll my leg in the socket. And then from there, very slowly push the ball up my hamstring. And as I'm doing that, I'm also pushing my heel out in opposition. All the way back up to the top. Bring that other leg back in and around if you had it somewhere else, and then carefully roll off to the side. And then we're just going to take a moment to compare what the two legs feel like. And hopefully the leg you've just rolled will feel a little bit more relaxed and maybe look a little bit straighter, and the knee joint might look a little bit closer to the ground. Okay, let's do the other side. We'll prop ourselves up on that opposite sit bone, which is now your left. And then just sit there for a moment. And then from here, circling around. And then changing direction and going the other way. And then bringing yourself to a stop on the sit bone, taking both knees over to one side. So we've got the ball under the left sit bone and both legs are knocked to the left. And then the low leg is going to lift and lower. And then we'll move a little bit. So we're working our way around the edge of the pelvis. And moving again. And again. And as you move around like this, you may find that having clothing tucked in is really helpful, because otherwise the edges of your t-shirt can get caught under the ball as it rolls around, and then you kind of get a bit trapped by your clothing. So feel free to adjust as you need to stop that from happening. And rolling again. And last one. And then from there up onto your sit bone for a moment, just to find your balance, and then rolling off of your sit bone onto the top of your hamstring. And then making a decision what you're going to do with that far away leg. Stick out behind me. And then leaning still to start with. And then rocking from side to side. And you'll probably be able to sense by the time we get to this point that both legs do feel quite different. And as we roll like this, we're trying to squash the muscle a little bit. So make sure that you're not weight bearing too much on your hands. We need to get some amount of squashing to increase the fluidity or hydration of the tissues. All right, start to roll the leg in the socket, externally rotating the thigh bone and then internally rotating it. And then I'm going to roll the ball about halfway down the leg. And rocking from side to side. And then rocking. And then let's roll back a bit further. We're now just above the knee joint. And this is the one where you can put your pelvis or your seat back down onto the floor if you want to. However, you might find that that creates a situation where all the pressure disappears. So find something that works for you where you're still getting a bit of squash on the muscle. I'm going to do some pointing and flexing here. And then I'm going to rock from side to side. And then some rolling. Pivoting on the heel as I rock the leg in the socket. And then I'm going to slowly push the ball up the hamstring as if I'm trying to push it towards my sit bone. And at the same time, my heel pushes out in opposition. All the way back up to your sit bone. Bring your other leg back around if you'd put it behind you. And then carefully coming off to the side. Taking a moment just to compare your legs and see what they feel like. And hopefully they feel a little bit better than when you started. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye.